Three creepy real trick-or-treating horror stories part 2 by Mr. Nightmare. What's good? How you day going? Morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this video. I ain't gonna tuck your ears off this intro because I'm ready to get to this video myself. And before I say this, with no deaths in the video, I'm hoping this video is like hella good and hella scary. But yo, if you want to check out the original video, link will be in the description below. But let's go. Trick-or-treat horror stories 2016.
4 years ago, I took my youngest sister and her two friends trick-or-treating. I'm 18 now. I was obviously 14 during the time of this story, and my youngest sister was only 7 at the time, along with her two friends, who, of the two, I'll only name one, Mary, for privacy reasons. I didn't have plans anyway, so I guess I was actually a bit happy that my parents made me walk with them. Plus, I low-key told my sister to fill an extra bag for me at each house. By now, we were more than a mile away from my house. The girls' bags were all pretty full now, and I was ordering them to start making their loop back in the direction of our house. The girls were approaching the front door of a corner house across the street from an old, closed-off community park. The house already stood out from the rest on the block in that there was a 3-foot wooden fence surrounding the perimeter, except for the walkway and driveway, and a bunch of overgrown trees and bushes on the front lawn, almost completely blocking the actual house from view. They tried looking for the doorbell, but then called back to me that there wasn't one. I answered back, telling them to just knock on the door. My sister pounded on the door in 3 different intervals. Then I called for them to skip this house. As the 3 girls were walking down the stoop, the front door to the house creaked open, and somebody could just barely be seen poking their head out from behind the door, which was open just a crack. The girls walked back up the stoop and simultaneously yelled "trick or treat." From the sidewalk, all I could see was an arm reach out from around the door, and then the person's pointer finger lifting up as if to say 1 second. The arm kind of creepily pulled back into the house. My view of it not seeing a body made the situation really eerie. The door closed, and for what felt like 20 seconds, they just stood there on the stoop. I was about to ask them what was going on, but once again, the front door to the house cracked open. Once again, just an arm came into view for me. This time I could see him waving the girls to come into the house with his hand. My sister and her 2 friends were actually making their way into the house before even looking back at me for approval. At this point, the feeling in my
all they know is candy. Don't get me wrong, it's hella stupid, but these are kids. They don't know yet. I mean, maybe their parents, they're 7. They didn't teach them stranger danger yet. And even if they did at 7, it is hard to stop a kid. That's why you really want to be on your kid teaching them about this shit for real, though. But I mean, at this point, they just think, oh, this is all innocent. We dressed up, raw, probably some witches or something. I don't know. Let's go get some candy. But yeah, hey, all candy ain't good candy. I think that's a stripper line. My bad. Let me go back. I gotta chill out sometime. I know. You got to be reminding me.
My sister and her 2 friends were actually making their way into the house before even looking back at me for approval. At this point, the feeling in my stomach told me something wasn't right here, and I yelled to the girls to come back. The really disturbing part was as soon as I yelled this, the person shut the front door, almost slamming it in their faces. The 3 girls came back over to me. I told them that was enough trick-or-treating for the night. I nudged them to continue walking forward, keeping my eyes on the house. Barely through the overgrown bushes in front of the house, I saw the blinds to one of the front windows rustling around, and an older man sitting by the window. We continued walking home now.
I'll get you next time, nigga. No, boy.
2 years ago, I was home on Halloween, and for the most part, it was a pretty normal day. Since Halloween was on a Friday, all of my friends were out partying. However, I was doing homework. Not one of my most exciting nights, but I didn't mind too much. I really had to get this homework done anyway. My mom and dad were handing out candy to the trick-or-treaters as they usually do. My house doesn't usually get many because we're pretty much the only house on the block that hands out, so it's often ignored because it's not worth their time. Tonight was no exception. Later that night, my mom calls me down and tells me to watch the door for trick-or-treaters because my neighbors had come over asking for help with their costumes for a party. So my neighbors and my parents both went upstairs to work on the costumes, leaving me alone downstairs. It didn't bother me because I had finished my homework and I could just play my PS4 while listening for knocks on the front door, which was close by. Only a couple more trick-or-treaters came in about an hour. Pretty typical for this area. However, around 11 p.m., I heard a knock at the door. I thought it was pretty weird since it had almost been an hour since the last knock and it was pretty late for trick-or-treaters to still be out. Regardless, I grabbed the candy and went to answer the door. It's important to note that there's a small room in between the front door and the living room. When we answer the front door, we make sure to lock the door behind us leading to the living room so our dogs don't run up and start barking and whatnot.
Okay.
I did the same thing here. When I answered the door, there was a surprisingly large man, at least 6 foot 3 inches tall with a somewhat muscular physique, standing in front of me wearing a Michael Myers costume.
Well,
Not a cheap one either, it looked pretty expensive for a costume. He stood in front of me but didn't say a single word. I thought it was pretty unusual because it's kind of customary to say trick or treat.
Not Michael
But nope,
Myers.
he didn't do a thing but stare at me. It was almost like he was a statue. I thought he was really trying to sell the character and creep me out, and it was working. I was feeling a little intimidated because I'm pretty small for a guy, only about 5 feet 10 inches tall. I decided to break the awkward silence and say trick or treat for him while handing him some candy. I couldn't believe what he did next. In response to me handing him candy, he took a few steps into my house. This was when I started getting really uncomfortable. You're supposed to take the candy, say thank you, and go.
Boy,
It's like
just
an
plain-
unspoken rule that you don't walk into people's houses without permission. It was at this moment that I also...
Maybe he didn't learn that growing up. Nigga, he not there for no candy, dog. I will say this though. So far, I do feel like it is someone who's just really just top tier trolling, going around scaring the ish out of people doing this. But the fact that he actually walked into his crib, all right, I was like, okay, or not. Nah. I'm gonna let it finish though, yo. That's some. If it's just some troll ish, if nothing happened, yo, this is crazy.
You're supposed to take the candy, say thank you, and go. It's like an unspoken rule that you don't walk into people's houses without permission.
Well, you probably got York.
It was
Patties.
at this
Nobody
moment
wants
that
shit.
I also noticed that he didn't have any
I'm
type of
enjoying
bag for candy.
My bad. Go back. You might want that bush.
It was at this moment
My bad. I went back. Chill
really
out, chill
uncomfortable. You're supposed to take the candy, say thank you, and go. It's like an unspoken rule that you don't walk into people's houses without permission. It was at this moment that I also noticed that he didn't have any type of bag for candy. This was a huge red flag, because I realized then that he was not there to trick or treat. Before I could respond, the man reached into his pocket and pulled something out. I didn't want to look at it, but I was assuming it was a weapon, and I had no idea what to do. I'd locked myself into a small room with a psychopath much larger than me holding a weapon, blocking the only exits. We all like to pretend and make up scenarios in our heads where we have to be the hero and save the day. But here I was, stuck in a real-life situation, completely unable to move, not able to save myself. I was frozen in fear. It was such a weird feeling, almost like I was dreaming the entire thing. I had no control over my body. And what a cliche way of dying I thought it would be, getting stabbed to death by someone dressed up as Michael Myers on Halloween. Thankfully, it didn't go like that, because without warning, the guy takes off his mask and jokingly says, "I'm just messing with you, bro."
What I tell you?
I'm still frozen in shock and can't respond in any way. He then says, "I scared you though, right?"
Nigga, hell yeah.
Completely confused and still afraid, I managed to respond with, "Yeah, you got me." He put the knife back in his pocket,
Well, he'll
which
say
gave
psych,
me a
he really
huge
gonna
sign
kill
of
him.
relief, and said, "I didn't really come here to trick-or-treat, but can I have that candy anyway? I'm really hungry." I didn't hesitate to give him the candy because he creeped me out, and he still did have a knife. He then goes on to mention how he just left his friend's Halloween party and he saw my lights on and decided to prank me. It was obvious that he was drunk and high and thought knocking on someone's house pretending to be Michael Myers qualifies as a good prank. He mentions how he owns a tattoo place about an
Yeah,
hour
'cause he
away
coulda
from
shot
here,
your ass.
and even says that I'm pretty chill and that we should hang out sometime. He tells me to put his name and number in my phone so we could chill soon. I make sure to take his name and number down.
Yup, do
After
it.
all, the last thing I wanted to do was upset this weird guy
Yup.
still blocking my only exit with a knife.
Hey, hold on, something, man. Both my damn eyes, boy. Well, what I was gonna say was, yo, you got to take it because you got to play it off because, yo, like I said, I thought I was a troll from the get-go, whatever. But I'ma still assume, like, no, dog, he may be playing, he may still be there to kill me. So I'm playing cool, like, man, dog, you play too much, dog, you scared me. What's your number? Give me your head. I'm gonna hit you up, nigga. You play too much. And I'm gonna try to put ish in his head, whatever, because, which is funny, though, before I go on, which is funny, like he was explaining, when you're in these situations, you really don't do all of what you say you would do. I tell you that all the time. I'm telling you, when you're really in these situations, half the issue say you do, I guarantee you will not do it. But either way, go though. Back to using hindsight. So I done played it off to try to put some ish in his head that I'm not alone. Like, dog, when you walk to the crib, nigga, I'm like, oh, he gonna see my niggas, they gonna flip out and shit. Like, try to make him think it's about people in the house. And I'm not saying friends, I'm not saying cousins, I'm not saying parents, I'm saying my niggas. So he'll think, oh, there's some niggas in that bitch. But then he might want, oh, fuck it. Oh, shit.
Last thing I wanted to do was upset this weird guy still blocking my only exit with a knife. I basically agreed to everything he said because I was still terrified and just wanted the conversation to end as soon as possible. But this conversation seemed to go on for hours. Despite this, I still didn't feel comfortable or safe. I had to find a way to get this guy out of my house. There was something way off about him, and I got vibes that he was a dangerous person. So I decided to make up a bullshit lie and say that I had something cooking in the oven that I needed to check on and that I'd text him later. And it worked. He said okay and turned around to leave my house. I could not close and lock the door quick enough when he left.
Damn, my bad.
My heart was still beating so fast that I thought it was going to burst from my chest. That was easily the most terrifying and weirdest experience of my life. I decided to not contact the police though, since the guy didn't have any malicious intent. I guess he was just completely out of it and just a overall really creepy person. I still have his number to this day, but we've never texted or called each other, just the way I'd like it. As terrifying as that situation was, I can laugh at it now and use it as an interesting story to share with my friends, so I guess one good thing did come from it. Just be careful who you open your door for on Halloween. There's some very weird and messed up people out there. I got lucky this guy wasn't a complete psychopath, because nothing was stopping him from stabbing me.
I knew it. I felt it was somebody playing, because they was doing the characters so much alike, and I ain't gonna lie, I was like, it's good. I wouldn't want to be in a position to get done in that trick, but seeing that shit as a prank, I'll probably crack the hell up. Like, oh, this nigga scared as fuck. And I ain't gonna lie, that's a big risk, because you could have got popped, but like, just in this situation, the fact that he did, boy, I'd have been under that mask, cracking the fuck up. What you gotta do it hard though. You know he be looking at you, then he do the little shit like, yeah. I know he was walking home, cracking up.
Halloween used to be my favorite holiday, but ever since one not-so-sweet round of trick-or-treating, I've kind of switched over to liking Christmas the most. 2006, I was 14 years old. Me and Johnny, my best friend at the time, were going trick-or-treating together.
That nigga went from creepy to joy to the world. What happened, nigga?
I was 14 years old. Me and Johnny, my best friend at the time, were going trick-or-treating together. I remember it was a Tuesday night, so everyone had school the next day. That meant the craziness with the teenagers going around with TP and shaving cream wasn't as extreme.
Paintball guns.
Nor was anything, really. My parents wanted me back by 11 o'clock the latest, same with Johnny. It was around 8:30. I would constantly check my wristwatch. We were down a bunch of blocks close to the woods and the highway by the east end of town. This would likely be our last year of trick-or-treating, so we were trying to get as much candy as possible. We rang doorbell after doorbell. As the night wore on and the amount of kids outside lessened, the number of people answering their doors also decreased. Then it started to drizzle, and that's when it really became a ghost town outside. But that didn't stop us. We were now 3 houses down from the house that was commonly known around there as Hell House. It was nicknamed this because of the alleged murder that happened inside decades ago. Plus the fact—
I'll tell you, every neighborhood has that house. When you're a kid, I should say, young. Every neighborhood has that house like, yo, that's the witch house, or that's the haunted house, or you know what, the killer house.
The fact that the house looked like it was built over 100 years ago and stuck out from the other houses 2 miles away. There was even a whole webpage dedicated to the house with a little lore behind it. I don't really remember the full details anymore. The website is down now, but at the time nobody seemed to know if anybody lived there or not. At the time I was sure the neighbors knew, but we didn't live very close to the house. Long story short, me and Johnny were feeling brave and cocky, so we hopped the creepy fence surrounding the seemingly abandoned property and walked up to the stoop, which was made out of ancient and worn-out looking red bricks. We knocked on the door a few times since there was no doorbell. The drizzle turned to rain, and we suddenly didn't want to move out from under the front awning. Johnny jokingly knocked on the door again, but my focus was shifted to walking home in this rain. Suddenly, a loud thud made us both jump. Johnny said it sounded like it came from a window upstairs, to which I replied, "Let's leave." We walked quickly back down the red brick pathway, hopped over the front black graveyard-like gate, and stopped to look back at the house on this dark, rainy Halloween night. Johnny bumped me on the shoulder and pointed to the upper middle window of the house, and I felt like my heart dropped from my chest when I saw somebody clear as day staring down at us. Only there was something so disturbing about this person's face.
That ain't bad so
I couldn't tell what it was through the rain and foggy window, but I swear that face and just this whole scene seemed like something you would see in a horror movie.
But you could be panicking because this was not that bad so far. The website should be taken down. I ain't gonna lie to you because this is all false. We don't know what's really going on in these homes. It's just what we think, dog. The fact that you trespassing though, if some issue would have went down, didn't it be? Oh my God, I told y'all the house. No, the house was chilling. But little Johnny wanted to hop over the gate. But either way, go though. So back to the story. Back to what I was saying. But with your mind in that mode and what you already know about this location, yeah, you're going to instantly, whatever you see is going to be times 10, whatever, because you're going to be tripping the hell out. You know how many times I've heard, just been walking, mind my business, heard a, you heard that door, and next thing you know, oh, it's this big ass pit bull just chasing you, whole time you dipping, boy, oh, get on the car, jump, look, turn around, you hear, it's a little dog, boy, because you tripped out. It's a little Yorkie. Little nigga. Moral of the story is, mind your business.
Clear as day, staring down at us. Only there was something so disturbing about this person's face. I couldn't tell what it was through the rain and foggy window, but I swear that face and just this whole scene seemed like something you would see in a horror movie. We both jumped once again when the person at the window quickly and aggressively turned and seemingly ran away from the window.
Oh yeah, I'm gone.
All we could assume was that they were coming outside after us. We quickly went to hide by the neighbor's fence, which was facing the backyard of the house. The sound of the rain thankfully masked the sound of our breathing and whispering. This neighboring fence was made of wood and had a bunch of holes, allowing us to peek through to the lawn next door. Suddenly, the entire fence started to shake a little, yet we couldn't see anyone on the other side, and we were certain it wasn't us who had done it. Johnny and I agreed it was time to make a run for it back to my house. We both stood up, and when we turned to run, I saw something at the edge of the fence. At first I was confused as to what it was due to the darkness, but it soon hit me that this was a person leaning over to this side of the fence, exposing their body down to their waistline with one arm reaching around the fence. The way this person was positioned and staring at us made for a horrifying scene and memory. We dropped our candy bags and ran for it. After running 5 blocks and my getting a few cuts and bruises from tripping twice in the rain, we got back to my house.
Yeah.
We agreed not to say a word given that what we did could probably get us in trouble. The really scary part is the next day after school, we went to go ask some of the neighbors over there if they knew who lived there. And they all gave the same response. They had no idea if anybody lived there or not. They never saw a car in the driveway or anybody outside. One of the neighbors even pointed out that the house had a for sale sign very briefly a few months prior, but disappeared within a few days. We told all of the neighbors our story, and they were all very disturbed by the news. I moved out of that neighborhood in 2007 the next year, and I've never had to worry about the story behind that house or who was living there since. All I know is something strange was going on inside of that house, and I kind of wish I found out what.
Joy to the world. Spooked his ass. That one was pretty good, though. The Michael Myers one, I felt it. I was like, yo, this one, it's too, because it was too good. I was like, yo, this is feeling too good. And if he just walk out, and that'd have been even more trippier. I'd have just walked out and never said shit to bro. You'd have never knew. I know that's too extreme. I wouldn't have did that because at that point, it ain't a joke no more. It's only a joke to you at that point. Now, dog just tripped out forever because he bumped into Michael Myers. So I wouldn't have done that. But regardless, though, I was like, this one, it has to be BS. I was like, it is far too good for a story, man. I was like, there's no way this happened this way. But yo, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here and chill and enjoy my day. You do the same thing. Enjoy your day, morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this video. It feel like it was something I told you I was gonna tell y'all, but I didn't. I'm out. Enjoy your day.